I think that it's really important to share the message of growth and goal setting, and being able to reach those different milestones. I know that's what I've done throughout my whole career. My mom used to say that I came out of the womb just ready to run, and I am. It's like when you see that goal and you're going to go after it, like setting that, knowing what you've got going on, and then achieving it, and then ticking off those milestones. It's just an awesome feeling, and it's been a ride to be able to get to this point, and now with the CEO title, it's like, "Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do with it now? Where are we gonna go?"
We gotta
I
set
love
a
it.
lot more goals.
Yeah, just keep setting the goals. It works. Hey, I believe in it. I'm with you. It works.
Welcome to the Doing It Wrong podcast. I'm your host, Christian. Today I'm joined by Kris Klein, CEO of Pollen Sense. I've known Kris for quite a while, but I know you from your sales and marketing days. You're now CEO. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. It's quite the jump in title that I've had.
Yes. So tell us about this journey going from sales into CEO role.
Yeah, so I've got 20, 25 years at least in new business development and new markets and a lot of different industries, healthcare and real estate, and just across the board. I've done a lot of different types of jobs, but with the same kind of general concept. It's built around relationships and sales, of course, but bigger type of relationship development. But new business and new markets has always been like my specialty. And I connected with Pollen Sense back a handful of years ago. Was kind of involved on the peripheral, came in as a consultant, saw that there was a need to really hone up and tighten up the strategy and the partnerships. And, a couple of years later, here I am as CEO. And I love it. I'm in this really cool tech space.
Yes. Well, you're also in this still kind of relationship building phase, as you said. So that experience must go a long way, yeah, to helping you through this period.
Yeah, I really did. I think with the team, whenever we sat down and looked at the progression of the company, so Pollen Sense is a deep tech company, that's a long runway of development, and it's really literally changing global industry monitoring standards when it comes to particle measurements, particle counting, and identification, and using AI. So through that being such a big process, as we look at it, and we were looking at all the strategy and timing, there's a shift in the development stage of the company where your original founders are PhDs and machine learning architectural expert who was like a teacher's assistant in the seventh grade in a junior college for teaching programming. Like he's brilliant. So there's just this brilliant team behind the development and the initial structure of the business. But you can only take that so far. And there comes a time where it's time to pivot and really grow and bring it to market on a broader scale. The timing and the personalities and what I had already teed up really made sense.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit for you. I remember, doing some startups back in the day, back .com era time, and trying to find people for those roles as well, because you needed someone that had done operations or something. You needed someone that had understands fundraising and all these different roles where if you're founded based on the tech, and you don't really know, especially a lot of technology people, or those real research people don't really understand all the other, or just not are great at all the other business areas. So yeah, finding that team I think is gold. I think you're also working with an accelerator. What's that like?
Yeah, so we are part of the HealthWildcatters program out of Dallas, Texas. And I just so happened to live in Dallas, so it really aligned great. But the HealthWildcatters program is a big recognized accelerator. I want to say it's probably in the top 20 or in that range with your Y Combinators and
Hmm.
such. And they've got an angel network of investors, over 200. It's between 2 and 300. Great backing. It's the 13th year to do their annual cohort. They go through over 500 applicants that they actually narrow down to, and then they narrow that down even more to 10 to 12 companies typically. And so we are one of 11 this year in the 2025 class. And it's been a really great education. I've worked this past year with a couple of different groups. I've worked through Startup Grind, doing different competitions. We did
Hmm.
VCIC, which is a collegiate competition, and went to their global finals out in North Carolina and got down to working with the top 6 teams in the MBA program and that track. That was really, really incredibly beneficial with knowledge and kind of practice term sheets. But I didn't come with a fundraising background. So this last year, I've been diving into it, listening to books, joining different organizations like Fusion 42, working with Startup Grind, working with Raj Nation through that on practicing and honing down 1 and 2 minute pitches, going into 3 minute pitches with venture starters and good gracious, stop me if it's too much. But even went to Venture Mechanics in Seattle for a tech climate pitch event. And everyone's looking at us like, wait, where are you guys from? We're a Utah based tech company. I'm from Dallas. It's kind of like everyone's like, where'd you come from? So this last year, that's just been over in 2025. We've done
Yeah.
all these things, and then got Utah or the West Coast Finals. Um, Won that for VCIC. There's another great pitch competition called Shit Pitch. It's so fun. Throws founders into the fire by giving you a failed or fake product, and you have 15 minutes. You're standing on stage, mind you, in front of an
Okay.
audience with investors and founders. You're standing on stage, they introduce you, they give you like this fake product, and you go for 15 minutes to build a deck. Then you come back immediately in 15 minutes, you pitch this fake, I got toothpaste nachos one time. You've pitched this fake product, Christian, and there's a panel of judges, and they're asking you questions like you are pitching to investors. They're asking you those types of investment
Yeah.
questions. So you are sweating, your pressure under fire, and then you immediately roll into a 5 minute pitch for your own company. So you don't get to sit
Wow.
there and think, what do I need to say, going through it and blocking everything out. It's totally gone, and then you roll into that. So that's been a really fun experience. I won my first one. And
Awesome.
then, fast forward to Health Wildcatters. Now we're growing up. Now we're ready. So it really takes you to be investor ready, to have the lingo, to have your not just a pitch deck, but to have the financials and the performer that are going to really back that up. Like, what are you going to do with their money whenever you get it? Are you going to manage it effectively? And are they going to be able to trust the team that's standing behind the rest of the company and standing behind the front man, who of course I'm going to be able to get out there and pitch. I'm in sales. That's all I do is
Yeah.
pitch and shake hands and kiss babies. So it's really been an adventure, but
Politician. Yeah.
I know that's kind of what it is, right? You just go around and
Yeah.
pitch constantly,
Yeah.
pitch your platform. Yeah, it's a crazy ride, but the more that I've done all of these different things, and yeah, you don't always win a bunch of money pitching. That's not the point. It's to me, it's the strategy, a different strategy of building that network and all the connections and who knows who, and it's a global network. Everyone with the fundraising community and the investor community, everyone's connected these
Yeah.
days. So building a reputation and kind of building up some FOMO so people know who you are. They get excited about you.
Yeah. Well, this climate, I don't know what it's like for you in the startup climate at the moment trying to get money, but I remember right before the dot-com bust, um, money dried up. So tons of money had got thrown at uh, tech companies, the internet companies, in the late 90s. And all the money just finally dried up and nobody was making money yet. So, going out there, it was like, yes, you might have a great idea, but there's no money. There's like, where everybody's waiting for a reset. And then, yeah, that's basically what happened. But, it sounds like, I mean, now with the stock market, still going through the roof, hopefully, what's the climate for investors? Are they still really excited to put money into stuff? How's it going?
Well, you've watched
I
the
mean,
news.
not
We had
necessarily your stuff, but yeah,
Yeah,
just in
you've watched
general.
the news,
Yeah.
we had a change in administration, right?
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
every year when there's or every 4 years when there's a big change or every 2 years when there's a big change in some of the administration and the funding, so we are the Pollen Sense is a climate, health, tech, deep tech, company. So when you're in this space where your immediate go-to-market customers have been in the research world who get grant funding from NIH and some of the big
Mm,
funds, NSF and stuff. And then all of a sudden, this year came around and everyone just hit pause. So that's really tough when we're looking at the space, but that also has an effect on investment capital and when and how they're going to deploy that, when and where everyone kind of starts to freak out with what we're going to do with our money and since 2020, since that time frame, when it really blew up and the valuation of companies really blew up, kind of like how the real estate market blew up
yeah.
so much. In that timing, everyone had these huge valuations. And since then, a lot of people have done down rounds. There's still billions being deployed around the world, but they're a lot more strategic with it. And the investors want you to now mitigate the risk. How are you going to meet certain milestones and de-risk their investment along the way? So now as a founder or as leading a company as I'm a co-founder, but in this space you have to know how to also add that. It's not just picking up the phone and pitching somebody and saying I've got this idea unless you've had an exit a couple of times and you've got that network with you,
Yeah.
pitching that idea, now you've gotta have traction. Even pre-revenue, they wanna see traction. They want you to be so ready at the market that you're in your head thinking, "Do I even need this money from you?" Like, and with Health Wildcatters, the program that we're going through, they align us with a ton of mentors. So we have educational classes multiple days a week, pitch practice. The mentors are coming in. We have sessions on the side with them. And then some of them have reached out to us individually to say, hey, I'm in this space. I know people. I can open doors for you. To have that opportunity to me is the most valuable. Like it's an honor to be able to be part of that group and to have a little bit of extra hand holding with it. Of course, you've got to
Yeah.
perform, but having it now is just really means a lot. And there are a lot of accelerators that are popping up. People are doing, venture studios, and there's a lot that's becoming available because now I think that the fund managers are starting to see that hey, we can kind of vet these people over time. Do we really believe it's not just a couple of pitches and doing some due diligence?
Yeah.
It's really getting personal and getting involved with that team. I think that's really carrying a lot more weight.
So I think it's really great for investors that have been through several rounds of these accelerate or investing and some making it and some not. These VCs that have done this for many years to then start actually helping knowing what makes success. And I'm guessing that's why these accelerators are so good is because there's that knowledge transfer that starts to happen. Okay, why do some succeed and some don't? And not just throwing money at things because of, again, in the .com days and later as well, you see so much money thrown at just, a one line pitch that should never have gotten any money. Like those I've seen, I know people that have started these, they had friends in the investment community and started these, new app for this or that, with a few $1 million and stuff. And, a few years later, they're gone. I'm going, and the business was never going to survive in the first place because they didn't have a market. They didn't, their market was like 4 people, like how are you going to survive with that? And we talk about market actually. So this is coming back to Pollen Sense. So this is interesting because you brought up playing in the public space. So, typically, and I don't know if you finished that thought, but you have government agencies which now are losing funding. How is it playing in that space? I mean, is there a public-private partnership that you're looking for? Should private kind of take over this space? Because, you know, and I don't know if you can probably tell us a little bit about what Pollen Sense does and then why it fits into that. So I'll hand it back over to you.
So, Pollen Sense is a deep tech AI enabled platform. It's real time air monitoring that uses optical microscopy. So we take pictures of the air, right, in real time and continuously, and then we use AI, which are convolutional neural networks. We use AI to first detect and then classify what that particle is based on the data set that's been trained. So we have over 100 data sets, and it's pollen, mold, dust, and other particulates. And we built an AI training platform that you can feed the particles in. So researchers around the world will train these data sets and then deploy that into a model to then start detecting it out in the air. Whenever we deploy that, then the AI will say, "Oh, now I know that this is a particular type of mold." And it will start to identify that before it might have been in the other bucket. So that's what we do is we provide ground truth, real-time, hourly data and like actionable insights to what's in the air. This space has heavy players, big players like the EPA, the National Allergy Bureau. I mean, I'm working with NOAA and NASA, Procter and Gamble, and like really big companies, big players, and big data players like Microsoft and Google are interested in this kind of technology. So it is groundbreaking. It's industry changing worldwide. So there are a lot of hurdles to get that validation in, and then to bring that blue ocean out into the world, you don't wanna boil the ocean because then you're doing too much at one time and
Right.
trying to hit everybody with this, "Look at my tech, look at my tech." But you need to get validated with your technology. So at the same time, you're starting out with that. The investors are like, "Well, AI." So 10 years ago, everyone's like, "Yeah, AI, you can't do that. This is the way that it's always done." So when we started tinkering with the first prototypes was in 2015 to 2017, trying all these different methods and then getting the patents and everything together. So going through that process, you're trying to get the investors and stuff to look at it, but they're like, I don't see it because they never heard of it. But now for us, the way that we work is we had to come up and actually meet the traction. They kept saying, "Okay, like, I think you've got something cool. It sounds unique. You might have a baby unicorn," all these words you wanna hear when you're trying to raise money and get, funding. But you're out there and you're hustling. You're trying to keep the lights on, trying to make payroll at the same time. But they're saying these words, and you're like, "All right, how do I get this story so that you get it?" And it really came down to the traction of it. And I think there's money there. The investors want to deploy the capital into the companies that they really believe in, that are showing that they can be profitable and showing that they can do something really great with their money.
I think you're definitely playing in a space that is probably um, eh, not looked at very often. And so I lived in Los Angeles uh, back in early '90s and late '80s through '90s, and pollution actually was really bad. Thanks, smog was really bad. I remember going to school there, and there were days where it was like, no, no outside play, like because the air quality was too bad.
Really?
Yeah, so that's something that, and is also someone with bad allergies and hay fever that pollen days kill me. Uh,
Do you know why?
but do, do I know why they kill me? No.
Not because you're allergic to it, but do you know what there's like this if can I share real quick? There's like this
Yeah, go for it.
there's this wild, there's a well, not wild, it's not wild, it's actually really annoying to everyone that suffers from it, right? Because I do too, but it's interesting. Pollen and mold are sticky, so they're carrier agents, They do cause allergic reactions, they'll get into the lung. So when you see now there's the big push for PM 2.5 and PM 10, and you watch the news, you're like, "I have no idea what that is, but it's in the red." Okay.
Right.
Well, when it comes to the pollution, there's all these particles that we don't even see. You can see some of it, but a lot of it, most of it, you don't see when it comes to microplastics and
Hmm.
wildfire smoke ash, and along with your allergens like pollen and mold. But this is all in our air constantly. But you've got these carriers now taking an increase in pollution, longer growing seasons with climate change, and that combination, the pollution is weakening your immune system. It's causing inflammation. And so you're already inflamed. And then you've got this carrier that's like, well, hey, come on, let's hitch a ride. So it makes it all worse. So allergies and everything across the world, there are over 400 million people that suffer from allergies. That's a lot of people. And
Yeah.
and that air pollution causes over 7 million premature deaths a year. And it affects the heart, the lungs, and the brain. So I think it's 25% of heart disease is attributed to air pollution directly. So
Wow.
then you think, okay, well, my body's already in a weakened state, and now I'm outside. So what's really been missing around the world until now? What's really been missing is hourly ground truth data so you can plan your day. Because if you know that, hey, like pollen's going to spike in the afternoon, and this is a pollen grain that I'm allergic to, then you can plan your day. You don't over medicate, taking too many over the counters. Maybe you can time and work better with your allergy physician on shots or immunotherapy. There's a lot of different strategies that you can do whenever you're equipped with that kind of data.
Yeah. Um, I know here in Australia, like the public data is really poor around, pollen and pollution or whatever particles are, in the air. In the US, it would probably be a little bit better, but I don't know if it was ever, I think some areas, maybe some places can get into detail of which pollens and
You know how
plants
they
are
do it?
blooming and
They
stuff. But
They manually count that, and it's from at least a day ago. So it's never
so
right
it's
where you're
always
standing
behind.
right now. It's
Yeah.
always late or it's modeled. So you might see,
Yeah.
like, one of the apps or a website or the news or something is like, "Hey, here's your pollen count for the day." But if you really track the source of it, if you can find the source, most of the time it's gonna be modeled, off of historical data, so it's never fresh right where you're standing. So that's really our mission, is to be able to deliver this type of data for indoor, outdoor, and industrial applications. Like, so you can protect workers in a factory as well, from being exposed or have an alert that goes off when an exposure reaches a certain limit. So that's where we're going with it. But you could have it in your backyard and you would know what allergens are floating around in real time, and you'd even be able to see it. It's pretty cool. It looks like the James Webb Telescope.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Uh, I think it would just be a constant stream in my backyard of just stuff, and so just be like, "Just take 4, 4 of everything every day." Where I live, yeah, we get bad winds, and the pollen's just terrible. So, yeah, especially with the winds, it really picks it up a lot. But, yeah, there's just no data because you go and I look on the Australian, um, yeah, whatever the free one is here, just the national and like for our area, it's going, oh yeah, you know, pollen or other pollens are medium, and I'm going, there's no way, and like things are low. I'm like, there's no way. Like, I don't think you live here. Like, you're doing some model, nobody's maybe checks once a month,
They're
actual.
taking a season, so they'll look at, well, historically, we've had, this show up in this time frame, so we can estimate that even if it has a longer growing season, then we can estimate that it should be this level at this time frame, so here you go. But 1 in 3 kids has an allergy to an aero allergen, or
Hmm.
asthma, and asthma happens to be the number one reason that kids miss school.
Yeah.
So if you could address that for these kids, they're going to perform better in school. You're going to save money from not having to take time off, and then save money on doctors too, and have less medication.
So, what do you see the market for this AI sensor that you've got? So, is this something that you're hoping local communities or city councils and things are going to put as part of their city planning with the larger network, of things, or is this a private thing? Where's your market going in the next 5 years?
Our primary market right now is for outdoor monitoring, and that's in we say B2G, but in your government space, public health departments, Department of Environmental Protection, they have funding for this type of equipment, and it's not even that expensive. They're all really shocked when they get to it. The Canadian, um, the CDC up in Canada wants to monitor for a specific mold that's it'll make you really sick. It's highly toxic.
Hmm.
So there's different use cases, but I know right now we've got a lot of academia, a lot of researchers that are trying to get their head around this level of data, and how they can adjust their models with it now, and predicting and monitoring health outcomes for chronic illnesses and comorbidities. There's a big grant funded study that's going to happen across the US. And actually, several of those are happening worldwide right now, and our technology is implemented there. So the current market is your government, your researchers, everyone at the public health departments that are working really hard, along with physicians and health practitioners, to bring this data to vulnerable populations. But then where we go as we continue to grow and we can scale it more, on a high volume level, that's going to go to your everyday person. That's going to you and me in our backyard and one in my house. You can have what's called a PM counter, and that's going to tell you, hey, you have particles, and you have a lot of particles, or you have a couple particles, or whatever. But now this is that next generation that's going to say, not only do you have particles, but you have this level of dog dander in your house. Or if you just got a new rug and you're worried about your new baby breathing in the microplastics, you'll be able to monitor those microplastic levels
Yeah,
as
well,
well, or just, other allergens. Or if you have a leak in your house and you have no idea that mold is growing because you don't see it, that's where it ends up, is in the hands of the everyday user.
yeah, that's it. That'll be a game changer, when it gets to that level, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
knowledge
hopefully
is
I've got a
power.
good partner. I'm definitely open for partnerships over here because I don't think that I can sell to the millions of people around the world, and definitely wouldn't be able to handle the manufacturing. So we do have some co-partners kinda lined up, which the investors are thankful for, and we have some conversations that I can't tell who they are, but, they're really big companies, giant consumer electronic companies, globally, that are interested in this type of technology to help commercialize it. So hopefully we'll get into a space where we can license it as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good development plan to start with the government first, get the data in there, and then, yeah, commercialize it, on the small scale to consumers. So is that a goal? I talk a lot about goals. We'll shift focus here for a minute and get back into business and leadership because I'm really fascinated on what leaders are doing right now because, well, especially here in Australia, and I'm coming from the US, and I go, look, I know I'm used to leaders leading, and over here sometimes you just don't see that. And so I've talked on this podcast before about leaders setting goals. Um, and can you talk maybe about some of the goals that you see, but then also maybe things that you've learned through the accelerator programs and these other pitches around what are leaders supposed to do, and you know what are goals, the value of goals in that, or just setting a vision.
That's interesting. That it's the perfect timing for that type of question, because internally with our team, we started partnering with someone who just believed in our mission, and he jumped in. as president with us, and developing processes and everything. So where we were in a company bootstrapping, with a small team just out to fight and pull it off, you don't have a lot of things in place. You're lacking that mission statement. We know what we're out to do, but you're lacking the core values. You're lacking some of that company culture that when you work for a big corporation, they as soon as you walk in the door and they onboard you, they're like, "Here's what we do." But with us and this smaller company that's growing, you've got to implement all of those. So there's a lot of goals right now. We are in like the goal season, it seems like, not gold, goal setting season of not just like strategy and milestones for development, but strategy and milestones for building the team. And then with the tech too, with how are we going to structure when we build the team? How are we going to onboard the team so we bring in the right people, right people in the seats, onboard them properly so they understand our mission, finding that talent and networking to be able to bring that and recruit it. That's been probably one of the easiest things, finding the talent. Once
Mm.
people see what we're doing, I've had big researchers around the world, somebody in France, PhD, he was like, "I love what you guys are doing. I wanna help you." And then somebody else that I can't say, with a big national organization, they emailed one day and were like, "Look, I'm tired of watching what's happening because 'cause they're kind of a competitor in the space." And they were like, "I wanna come and work with you." And I'm like, "What? Really?" And they're like, "Yes. I'm so excited about what you guys have." That's really fortunate for us, but that it's all the same. You've got the business development strategy, but you've gotta have the goal setting strategy too for building that team. How are you gonna maintain everybody, keep them engaged, make sure they're excited, incentivize them at the stage where you're not a big corporation yet, so you can't necessarily pay your full market rate on a developer coming in,
Yeah.
so you stack that, but then I think when you've got the right team, you know it, you feel it in your heart, they align with your values, and everybody ends up being on the same mission, that really helps a lot. But that's some of our big goals is setting out that foundation that as we grow, then we can align with our own company culture and our core values.
Now you've got some of these understanding the importance of goals. Give us one goal that you have or a vision that you want to set for Pollen Sense.
So when it comes to goals, something that we really wanna achieve as a team, and then anybody that comes on our team is gonna be on this mission too. It is truly to bring this type of information to an everyday person, to be able to have better health outcomes and to be able to track that this technology and this type of detailed hyperlocal data has helped improve someone's life. I think that's the ultimate goal that we have.
Awesome. Now you've shared a story with me about this actually helping people's lives, and can you share that with us? Just one story of how this can help people in their daily lives.
Yeah, there's a family that I'm working with, and she's a mom. She called multiple times, and said, like, "I've looked everywhere trying to find a solution, and I just need to know what you guys offer." And I'm like, "Well, it's a professional product right now, so it's kind of expensive for the everyday person." And she tells me that her son, he's pretty young, elementary school, has what's called a mast cell disease, and it affects multiple organ systems in his body. So he has this allergic reaction, hives, and behavioral reaction whenever he goes
Mm.
outside or walks to school. And she's been to 12 doctors, including like the children's hospital and stuff. So high level doctors, been to everybody and just like, what's going on with my kid? All this treatment, all these shots, all these tests, a lot of money, a lot of time missed from work and school. Can't figure out what's going on. Well, it just so happens that the whole neighborhood has kids that are affected by the exact same thing. So she's like, there's got to be something in the air. And I said, I don't know what we're going to see. I can't make any promises or claims. I can just take pictures of your air, right? And then we'll just look at the data and maybe it ties to how he feels. So she calls me a week ago and she's in tears. I end up being in tears and she sends me a screenshot and she's like, "We're looking at it." And she's like, "In this hour, right when my son started to have a behavioral reaction, which is kind of a trigger, She's like, the mold shot through the roof to like exponential levels. So now she's watching how he feels, how he reacts with the data that's happening. Cause I decided to just lease her a sensor for a little while. I'm like, I just want to help you. Like, let's see what we get. But she's just beside herself. So now we're reaching out to the state health lab, and to some other groups. I even joked about reaching out to Erin Brockovich. I did send her a message, by the way. So if you're
Oh,
listening,
good.
Erin, if I can say that, if you're listening, call
Yeah.
me because I need your help. But, we're looking at it, and where they back up in this state, there's a conservatory. And she's like, "I think there's something coming from the woods back behind the house." So she's monitoring more and more and more, but for the first time, she's like, "There's something that ties with exactly how my young son is feeling and what is going on in the air." So now you've got something that's actionable. Let's see what we can uncover and work through from there. It's
Yeah.
really is amazing, like, I'm gonna cry again. It's really, really, truly, like, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's funny because you said, we can just take pictures of your air." Like, what, like, snake oil are you selling me? But
Right.
it's funny, like, there's so much, there that can be shown, basically from what's flowing in our air, from pollution to pollen and molds, as you said. So, but this is, yeah, definitely then something that you can take action on once you have the data. That's
And
pretty awesome.
it's even helping, there were some studies with a couple of uh companies, agriculture. And they were interested in some plant molds and some other things that were happening. And so they've used the sensor and did a project, and they even saw that they could increase crop yield from knowing real time what's affecting their crop.
Mm,
Like that right there could save, millions and billions of dollars around the world.
yeah.
So being able to reach the everyday person, being able to support our food chain globally, and then being able to really bring the technology to rural communities to enhance their healthcare, would be a huge win.
So there's a lot of great uses that can come out of this, and I'm really excited to see where this goes over the next couple years. Um, but if we shift gears, I do want to touch base on this other point before we let you go, Kris. Is you being a female in a CEO role, and not only just in a CEO role, but in tech company, um, and as a startup, and so while that's becoming probably more common than it was, is do you feel there's this big difference, or um, being a female in that role?
Yes. I think even with it becoming more common with diversity being more on the front runner, with a lot of companies and making sure that they've got diverse teams and stuff, right? There are, I think, there's one data study showed that an estimated 17% of tech companies have female CEOs. That's not even in the startup space. That's in an established company. I
Hmm.
think in the startup space, it's 10 to 14 roughly percent are women. Um, I grew up in in a space of, kind of knowing about worker safety and nuclear power and oil and gas and big industry like that and big telecom tech. So I was familiar with some tech in the worker space to kind of begin with, but wasn't familiar with this kind of technology and AI and development and programming and such. So to try to enter that space as a female, it doesn't come from it, but is passionate about caring for people, um, it was really tough. It's tough sometimes to walk into the room um, and to have that respect, but I think whenever you know enough, you can be a little dangerous. But yeah, it's a very limiting space, and it's really awesome to see more and more women. I have a friend launching another company out of Austin called Concrete Engine. She's brilliant PhD, and she's an AI. um, computing database founder. And she's brilliant, comes from a research background, and her stories, man, they're just some days that they're so sad what she's been through and her struggles that I feel so fortunate that I haven't faced that, but she's come up through the trenches with it in in being a tech programmer and everything
Mm.
and developer. She's really faced some incredible hardships. So it's great that we've got this big community of female founders, and there are groups of female investors and angel groups. Like she's independent, and a bunch of family offices that are female run, and predominantly female, and there's funding that goes specifically to, diverse, businesses and startups, that are looking for those female leads to be able to back. So it's really great to see all that transition in the space too. Yeah, it's not easy though.
No, well, I was going to say the startup space is not easy, for anyone. Um, if and I guess if there's extra hurdles, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I
And
think
sometimes you've got a power. So, it depends on, like, how you play it. So you can be like, "Yeah, I'm one of the only women in this room," and you know that you're gonna instantly bond with the other women that are there, and then maybe the guys get a little nervous. I can't speak for them, but I'm okay with it.
well, I was to say your sales background definitely gives you an advantage. I think probably over a lot of the guys
Yeah.
as
They look
well.
at me and
So
they're like,
yeah.
"Wait, where did you come from? How did you get in here?"
They're like, "Can we lock the door next time? She's gonna show us up."
I know.
Yeah.
But when they start asking some of the questions, I'm like, I'll be right back. I'm gonna get my backup." And of
Yeah.
course, my backup is all male.
Yeah.
Except for we have a few females in the company, and they're brilliant. One's a mechanical engineer, she's about to graduate, mechanical engineer, and the other is a biologist who is AI, now, on her resume and is going for her, I believe, PhD. So
Okay.
we're in
Well,
this space of brilliant, strong, capable females, so it's an honor to stand next to them.
so you mentioned AI again, and so I'll touch on this last because we've talked a lot about AI in this podcast. But you guys being an AI company, well, sort of machine learning sort of space, uh, the speed at which AI is changing at the moment now, especially in large language models, may but is that affecting you guys, or is that pace of change benefiting you, hurting you? I'm guessing it would benefit, but just in case, there might be some other problems where it might be hurting you too. I don't know. Um,
It's a race, it's weird, like, you feel like you're, I feel, I'm not the AI architect behind it, but I feel just in the growth space of in that competition with AI and the speed at which it's accelerating, just exponentially around the world. That is, it's almost this anxiety of, are we going to be able to keep up, um, with, with who could be coming around the corner as a competitor, right? Because now you can vibe code and it's really freaking helpful. It's awesome. I know that the team uses it, and we've got a great team internationally that we have for, additional AI programming and modeling and stuff. And the developments on that have made it just awesome to be able to grow faster. Your competition wants to grow just as fast too. So staying ahead of that, I think, means a lot. But I've heard my CTO founder, Nathan Allen, I've heard Nate just talk about, man, what used to take like multiple guys on a team several weeks to a few months to be able to build, he can do in, a few days. Like, it's just
yeah,
unbelievable what is around the corner. It's scary too, but it's really exciting to kinda be part of it.
that's awesome. Chris, do you have any parting shots you want to leave us with? I've really enjoyed this conversation, but yeah, if you have anything you want to leave us with before you go.
Well, thanks, Christian. I really appreciate being on today. I think that it's really important to share the message of growth and goal setting, and being able to reach those different milestones. I know that's what I've done throughout my whole career. My mom used to say that I came out of the womb just ready to run, and I am. It's like when you see that goal and you're going to go after it, like setting that, knowing what you've got going on and then achieving it and then ticking off those milestones, it's just an awesome feeling, and it's been a ride to be able to get to this point, and now with the CEO title, it's like, "Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do with it now? Where are we gonna go?"
We gotta
I
set
love
a
it.
lot more goals.
Yeah, just keep setting the goals. It works. Hey, I believe in it. I'm with you. It works.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Kris. Thanks for coming on, and we wish Pollen Sense the best.
Thanks, Christian. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us today, and if you have any questions for the guests, pop them into the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe.